You've started dating someone wonderful. The relationship feels right until their ex enters the picture. At first, it seems like typical post-breakup awkwardness. Maybe a few too many text messages, perhaps showing up unannounced once or twice. Your partner brushes it off. They're just having trouble letting go. But something in your gut tells you this is different. This feels dangerous. Trust that instinct, because the statistics surrounding dangerous exes are sobering and potentially life-saving to understand. Research on intimate partner violence reveals that stalkers who were motivated by a desire to frighten were significantly more likely to carry out all stalking behaviors examined, with motivation to frighten most significantly correlated with violence and proximity behaviors. When analyzing stalking cases, stalking behavior escalated among women who left their abusive partners, with the length of time a woman was out of the abusive relationship being the single strongest predictor of post-separation stalking. Even more alarming, researchers found that 1/3 of people who stalk eventually assault their victim, and among women whose ex-partner is stalking them, this increases to half. These aren't abstract statistics, they represent real people whose lives were forever changed because warning signs were dismissed as harmless or just emotional. The truth is that separation from an abusive partner often represents the most dangerous time, not the safest. When someone loses control over their former partner, some respond with escalating harassment, stalking, and violence. Understanding the warning signs of a dangerous ex isn't paranoia, it's potentially life-saving awareness. Today, we're examining 5 critical signs that your partner's ex poses a genuine threat. These aren't based on speculation or fear-mongering. They're grounded in decades of research by domestic violence experts, validated through studies of intimate partner homicide, and recognized by law enforcement professionals as reliable indicators of escalating danger. If you recognize these patterns, immediate action isn't just recommended, it's essential. Sign 1. Persistent, unwanted contact despite clear boundaries. The first and perhaps most common warning sign is persistent, unwanted contact that continues despite clear requests to stop. This isn't about an ex who texts once to return belongings or asks a sincere question about shared responsibilities. This is about someone who refuses to accept that the relationship has ended and continues making contact across multiple channels. They could hack into email accounts or send unwanted emails, post unwanted messages or pictures on social media sites, or create fake profiles to harass both the former partner and people they know. The contact might start with seemingly innocuous messages, reminiscing about good times, asking how your partner is doing, or suggesting they just talk. But when these attempts are ignored or rebuffed, the messages often escalate in frequency, intensity, or concerning content. Stalking is defined as a pattern of unwanted and harassing behavior that instills fear or distress in the victim. And if a stalker is found to exhibit this behavior, they can be tried and punished in the criminal justice system. What distinguishes normal post-breakup communication from dangerous stalking is the persistence despite clear boundaries and the fear or distress it creates. The dangerous ex might call repeatedly, sometimes dozens of times per day. When your partner blocks their number, they call from different phones, friends' phones, work phones, unknown numbers. They send messages through every available platform: text messages, WhatsApp, Facebook Messenger, Instagram DMs, LinkedIn, email, even old platforms your partner hasn't used in years. When blocked on social media, they create fake profiles to continue monitoring and contacting your partner. This behavior reveals several concerning psychological patterns. First, it demonstrates a refusal to accept reality. The relationship is over and continued contact is unwanted. Second, it shows disregard for boundaries and consent. Your partner has communicated clearly that contact is unwanted, yet the ex continues anyway. This boundary violation is fundamental to understanding future risk. Someone who won't respect the basic boundary of "leave me alone" is unlikely to respect other boundaries regarding safety and autonomy. Third, the persistence reveals an obsessive quality to their thinking. Healthy people, even when hurt by a breakup, eventually accept reality and move forward. The dangerous X remains fixated, unable or unwilling to redirect their energy and attention elsewhere. This fixation often intensifies rather than diminish over time. Research on stalking behaviors shows that communication tactics were the main stalking behaviors, and perpetrators who stalked ex-romantic partners were more likely to use communication methods than in all other stalking contexts. This makes sense psychologically. Communication represents an attempt to maintain or re-establish connection and control. Each message, call, or contact serves a function. It keeps them present in your partner's consciousness. It demonstrates their refusal to accept the breakup, and it tests whether boundaries will be enforced. What to do? Document everything. Save all messages, emails, voicemails, and record dates and times of phone calls. Change privacy settings on all social media accounts. Consider changing phone numbers if contact continues. Most importantly, maintain absolute consistency about boundaries. Do not respond to any contact, as responding, even negatively, rewards the behavior and teaches the X that persistence works. If contact continues after clear boundaries have been established, this isn't just annoying, it's potentially criminal harassment. Consider consulting with law enforcement about your options, including restraining orders or protection orders. Sign 2. Surveillance and showing up uninvited. The second critical warning sign is when the X begins physically monitoring your partner's movements or showing up uninvited at locations where they shouldn't reasonably be. Red flags that can indicate stalking include showing up at workplace or house unannounced, constantly appearing nearby even when they shouldn't know where the person is, and asking friends about the person's location. This behavior escalates from unwanted communication to physical proximity, which significantly increases danger. The X might drive by your partner's home repeatedly, park on the street watching the house, or follow your partner when they leave. They might appear at your partner's workplace, walking in under some pretense, waiting in the parking lot, or timing their arrival to coincide with your partner's schedule. Perhaps most unsettling is when the X appears at locations your partner hasn't publicized. Your partner goes to a new restaurant they've never visited before with this X, and somehow the X appears there. Your partner attends a friend's party at an address they never shared, and the X shows up. These incidents aren't coincidence. They're evidence of active monitoring and stalking. If someone is consistently keeping track of daily routine without permission, it's a warning sign that they're stalking. And this kind of monitoring lets them intrude on your life and potentially manipulate or cause harm. The monitoring might involve checking social media obsessively for location tags, asking mutual friends about your partner's activities, or even more invasive tactics like GPS tracking. Stalkers may monitor internet activity using spyware, IP tracking, and other tools, or track phones. They might have installed tracking software on your partner's phone or vehicle during the relationship that remains active after the breakup. They might have access to email or social media accounts and monitor activity that way. This surveillance behavior reveals an escalating need for control and information. The dangerous X needs to know where your partner is, what they're doing, and who they're with. This need stems from several psychological motivations: jealousy and possessiveness, inability to accept the relationship has ended, desire to maintain control even after separation, and planning for future contact or confrontation. The physical proximity aspect dramatically increases risk. Research consistently shows that proximity behaviors correlate strongly with eventual violence. Motivation to frighten was most significantly correlated with violence and proximity behaviors, suggesting that victims' fear in this regard should be taken very seriously by police when incidents of stalking are reported. When someone is physically following or monitoring another person, they're creating opportunities for escalation that don't exist with remote harassment alone. What to do? Vary routines as much as possible. Leave for work at different times. Take different routes. Don't establish predictable patterns. Check vehicles for tracking devices. Look under the car, in wheel wells, inside the car, in hidden locations. Consider having a mechanic or police officer help with this search. Have your partner's phone checked for monitoring software. Factory reset if necessary, though be sure to back up important data first. Change all passwords for email, social media, and any accounts the ex might have had access to during the relationship. Enable two-factor authentication on everything. Maintain awareness of surroundings. Pay attention to people around and any signs that someone might be following. Recognize warning signs and look for any vulnerabilities in daily routine to put safety measures in place. Trust your instincts. If you sense you're being followed, go to a public place. Don't go home, and consider calling police. Sign 3. Threats, explicit or implied. The third warning sign, and perhaps the most obviously dangerous, is when the ex makes threats. These might be explicit threats of violence. If I can't have you, no one will. I'm going to make you regret leaving me. You're going to pay for this. But threats can also be more subtle and implied. Prior threats to kill are one of the strongest risk factors consistently linked to homicide of an intimate partner. This finding comes from extensive research on intimate partner homicide and is incorporated into validated lethality assessments used by law enforcement and domestic violence professionals. When someone threatens to kill their former partner, that threat must be taken seriously, regardless of whether you believe they would actually follow through. The dangerous ex might threaten suicide, saying things like, "I can't live without you," or "If you don't come back, I'm going to kill myself." If an abuser threatens that they will commit suicide, this is something that should be taken seriously when considering safety, as depression has been found to be a factor in incidences of murder-suicide. These threats serve multiple functions. They attempt to manipulate through guilt, they communicate desperation and loss of control, and in some cases, they precede actual murder-suicide scenarios. Threats might also be directed at others. The ex threatens to harm you, the new partner. They threaten mutual friends who support the breakup. They threaten your partner's family members or children from the relationship. Any threat of violence against anyone should escalate your concerns significantly. Some threats are more subtle. You'll regret this. Karma is going to catch up with you. Things are going to get very difficult for you now. These implied threats create an atmosphere of fear without explicit actionable content, which can make them harder to report to authorities, but no less concerning psychologically. Property damage often functions as an implied threat, demonstrating capability and willingness to cause harm while maintaining plausible deniability. According to Protection Against Stalking, 2/3 of stalkers commit property damage, and feeling they've lost the relationship, many stalkers resort to fear tactics to regain power and control, with property damage associated with rage and a wish to undermine belief in a safe environment, often preceding physical attacks. If someone notices unexplainable damage to belongings like car or house, finding car scratched and tires punctured repeatedly despite no apparent accident, it might become obvious after a couple of times that someone is intentionally damaging it to disrupt routine or send a threatening message. Slashed tires, broken windows, vandalized property, damaged vehicles, these aren't just property crimes, they're messages. I can get to you. I can harm what's yours. You're not safe. The psychological purpose of threats is to create fear and re-establish control. Even if the ex never physically acts on the threats, the fear itself becomes a weapon. It constrains your partner's behavior, makes them constantly vigilant and anxious, and reminds them that the ex still has power over their emotional state. What to do? Report all threats to law enforcement immediately. Even if you don't think your partner's ex will follow through, creating a documented record is essential. Save all threatening messages, emails, voicemails. Take photos of any property damage with timestamps. It is critical to be direct and tell them clearly that you are not interested in any further contact, as there's no need to worry about being nice when stalking is involved, since things can quickly take a turn for the worst. After this one clear communication, cease all contact entirely. Consider filing for a restraining order or protective order. Stalking is defined by law as willfully, maliciously, and repeatedly following or harassing another person who makes a credible threat with intent to place that person in reasonable fear of their safety or the safety of immediate family. Threats meet this definition and provide grounds for legal protection. Develop a safety plan. Identify safe places to go if the ex appears. Establish code words with friends and family so your partner can quickly communicate danger without alerting the ex. Consider whether temporary relocation is necessary for immediate safety.
Sign 4. Obsessive jealousy and possessiveness. The fourth warning sign is obsessive jealousy and possessiveness that persists after the relationship has ended. Domestic violence is rooted in an abuser having power and control over the victim, and when they feel they are losing this power, this can be a time when danger to the victim greatly increases. The dangerous ex cannot tolerate the idea of their former partner moving on, being happy, or being with someone else. This jealousy manifests in several ways. The ex might obsessively monitor your partner's social media, noting who they interact with, who appears in photos, what activities they're doing. They might interrogate mutual friends about whether your partner is dating anyone new. When they learn about you, the new partner, their behavior often escalates dramatically. The ex might make harassing contact specifically about you. "I can't believe you're with someone like that. They're not good enough for you. I hope you realize what a mistake you're making." They might try to contact you directly, either to warn you against your partner or to interrogate you about your intentions. They might spread rumors or post negative things about either of you online. When the abuser depends heavily on the victim, idealizes them, putting them above everyone else, or isolates them from all other aspects of community life, the risk of serious assault or homicide increases. This pattern of dependency and idealization often continues after the relationship ends. The dangerous ex has built their entire identity and emotional stability around their former partner. They cannot conceive of life without them, cannot tolerate their former partner being happy with someone else, and view any new relationship as a fundamental threat. This jealousy often combines with what researchers call "if I can't have you, no one will" thinking. Rather than accepting the reality that their former partner has moved on, the dangerous ex would prefer to see them dead than with someone else. This thinking is obviously irrational and extreme, but it drives some of the most lethal intimate partner violence. The possessiveness reveals that the ex never truly viewed your partner as an autonomous person with the right to make their own choices. Instead, they viewed them as property, as an extension of themselves, as something they owned. Even after the relationship ends legally or formally, psychologically, the dangerous ex still feels entitled to control and possession. Research on being stalked by ex-intimate partners shows these cases are particularly dangerous precisely because of this possessive dynamic. The motivation to stalk in ex-romantic relationships was more likely to involve a desire for intimacy with victims rather than just a desire to frighten, though stalkers motivated by desire to frighten were more likely to perpetrate violence. This creates a complex danger. The ex wants the relationship restored, but when that proves impossible, the the motivation can shift toward harming the partner they can't have. What to do? Your partner should make their social media accounts private or deactivate them temporarily. Untag yourself from posts, be careful about location sharing, and consider what information the ex might be gleaning from online activity. Be careful about what you share publicly about your relationship. The ex is likely monitoring everything they can access, and visible signs of your relationship may trigger escalation. This isn't about hiding or being fearful, it's about not unnecessarily provoking someone who has demonstrated they're obsessive and potentially dangerous. Tell close friends and loved ones about the stalking situation. Suggest that friends and loved ones pop in or call from time to time to ensure safety, and establish a secret code word so if danger occurs, calling someone and saying the word means they know to come help or call 911. Community support and awareness become crucial safety tools. If you notice the ex seems to know things about your activities that they shouldn't know, investigate how they're getting that information. Are mutual friends sharing information they shouldn't? Have they gained unauthorized access to accounts? Is someone in your circle not trustworthy? Sign 5. History of violence or controlling behavior. The fifth and perhaps most predictive warning sign is a documented history of violence or intensely controlling behavior during the relationship. The single best predictor of future violence remains past violence. If your partner's ex was physically, sexually, or emotionally abusive during the relationship, the risk they pose after the relationship remains elevated. Ask your partner directly about the nature of their previous relationship. Were there incidents of physical violence? Did the ex ever choke or strangle them? Non-fatal strangulation is an important risk factor for homicide of women. Strangulation demonstrates extreme danger because it shows willingness to use potentially lethal force and indicates the perpetrator is comfortable with the physical act of killing. Did the ex control your partner's daily activities, monitor who they spent time with, control their finances, or isolate them from friends and family? These controlling behaviors are risk factors not just for continued harassment, but for escalating violence. When the abuser controls most or all of daily activities and depends heavily on the victim or isolates them from all other aspects of community life, the risk of serious assault or homicide increases. Did the ex have access to weapons? Access to firearms is a lethality risk factor that can be identified and addressed. If your partner's ex owns guns or has access to weapons, this significantly elevates the danger, particularly if they've made threats. Understanding the history matters enormously for assessing current risk. Research using validated lethality assessments reveals that certain factors dramatically increase the likelihood of intimate partner homicide. These include threats to kill, access to weapons, strangulation or near strangulation, escalating violence over time, depression or hopelessness in the abuser's belief that the victim is planning to leave, pregnancy for relationships where that's applicable, and stalking behaviors. If your partner minimizes or dismisses the past abuse, like, "Oh, they only hit me once," or "They weren't that bad," gently encourage them to be honest about the full extent of what occurred. Victims often minimize abuse due to shame, trauma bonding, or fear of judgment, but accurate risk assessment requires honest accounting of past behavior. Pay attention to how your partner describes the breakup. Did they feel safe telling the ex directly, or did they have to leave secretly? Did they need to involve the police? Was there a restraining order during the relationship? These indicators reveal the level of fear and danger that existed. Among women who left their abusive relationships, many continued to experience recent harassing, threatening, and stalking behaviors, and these women reported significant fears that their partners would commit lethal or sublethal acts of violence against them. Your partner's fear level matters. If they express genuine fear of their ex, believe them. They know this person's capacity for harm better than anyone else. What to do? If the history includes violence, treat the situation as high risk from the beginning. Don't wait for escalation to take safety precautions. Immediately document all contact or concerning behavior. Involve law enforcement early. Consult with domestic violence advocates who can help assess risk and develop safety plans. And consider obtaining a restraining order even if current behavior hasn't been violent yet. The history justifies it. Your partner may benefit enormously from connecting with domestic violence services. Organizations like the National Domestic Violence Hotline provide free, confidential support and can connect your partner with local resources. These professionals are trained in lethality assessment and safety planning. Be prepared for the possibility that this situation could require significant life changes for safety, changing phone numbers, email addresses, possibly even relocation. While these feel extreme, they may be necessary when dealing with a dangerous ex who has demonstrated capacity for violence. Taking action. What to do if you recognize these signs? If you've recognized one or more of these signs, taking action is not optional. It's essential for safety. Here are concrete steps to implement immediately. Document everything. If falling victim to stalking, documenting incidents of harassment is crucial as documentation provides concrete evidence of the stalking behavior, helps if deciding to report to law enforcement or pursue legal action, and helps maintain an accurate account of events over time as specifics about each incident can become difficult to remember. Keep a detailed log with dates, times, descriptions of incidents, copies of all messages, emails, screenshots of social media interactions, photos of property damage, and records of witnesses to incidents. Report to law enforcement. If believing life is being threatened, or if harassment continues or escalates, consider taking legal action, as all states have laws against cyberstalking, and it could help to speak with a legal advocate about protective orders or other legal measures. Don't wait for violence to occur before involving police. Establish a record early, so if escalation happens, there's a documented pattern of behavior. Obtain protective orders. Restraining orders and protective orders aren't perfect solutions. They don't physically prevent someone from causing harm, but they serve important functions. They create legal consequences for continued contact.